So I will introduce Huddle. Huddle is a meeting place that has been created by CAMP, which has been happening throughout the British Art Show. The British Art Show has toured 4 cities across the UK: Aberdeen, Wolverhampton, Manchester and Plymouth. And throughout those British Art Show host periods of time, CAMP has been opening up Huddle for gatherings, inviting artists within their membership and those based in other British Art Show host cities to present their work or their research. So this has included talks, walks, panel discussions, performances, and so much more. Anything that fits within the capabilities of Zoom. So we hope that this programme has increased opportunities for networking and encouraged artists to form bonds with other practitioners across the country, and creating more awareness of activities that are happening around the main British Art Show programme. So this particular huddle will be a panel discussion between a number of organisations across Europe. So we have PROFORMA, based in Manchester, we have Begehungen Festival in Germany, and then we have SODAS2123 in Lithuania, and they're going to be discussing Desire Lines, which is a European residency programme with artist-led partners across Europe. So we have a number of speakers with us this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. And we've also got a number of artists who have been part of that Desire Lines programme who are going to chat with us as well. So I will hand over to Chris to start with, to introduce themselves, and then on to Indre and Lars, who will both introduce themselves as well. So over to you, Chris.
Yeah, hi, I'm Chris Barkowski. I'm co-director of PROFORMA, originally a performance art platform in Manchester, and then over the years it's developed into much more of an artist development platform. And we have recently, as an organisation, moved into a space in Longsight in Manchester, and that's called Longsight Art Space. I'll pass on to Indra now.
Hi, thank you for having me here. I'm Indra from Vilnius, Lithuania, and I am at the moment the Artist in Residency Program Curator at SODAS2123.
And Lars, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello. I'm Lars, and I'm from the festival Begehungen in Chemnitz. It's a festival founded in 2003, so the next year we have our 20th birthday, and it's a festival in summer now for 10 days, and it's about all kind of arts. It's exhibition with visual arts and performance and what you can think. And so there is a festival program with concerts and keynotes and discussions and literature and so on. Yeah, and now we're part of the European Capital of Culture. Chemnitz is in 2025. Yeah, we're looking forward to great times in Chemnitz.
Thanks, Lars. Yeah, so I think we're going to have about 10 or 15 minutes per organisation now, just to talk about what we do, especially where Design Lines came from, the idea for that. And then we'll open it out to, I think we have 3 or 4 artists who've been participants in our residency programme in Europe. And I think towards the end of that, there should be time for Q&A if you have any questions. So for me, personally, my career in Manchester, it's been going for about 20 years now. I've worked as venue operator, curator. I'm currently director of a live art and music platform in Manchester called Soup. It was Soup Kitchen. PROFORMA for the last 5, nearly 6 years now. And now we've got a new space called Longsight Art Space. For me, I think as my career has developed, curator, director, I haven't really found the term an entrepreneur. It doesn't really suit my practice really, but I would say that really I am an artist at heart, so I approach everything that I do from a really sort of question point of view and try to unpick what that means. So for organizations, you know, curatorially and artistically, I think for me, it's about finding out every aspect of what it means to operate, especially within the arts and how that works. I think it came from a lack of opportunities with institutions. It comes from a need to understand more, and that this idea that I guess pushing against gatekeepers within organizations. I think it's hard. You know, the longer journey for me has been to start up my own organizations. It's a very, very long process, but I think it's much better in overall because you can be flexible, you can be adaptable. We can have a program that can be planned years ahead. Design Lines is one of those programs, or we can respond to an artist that we meet next week, and we can have that flexibility. So it allows us to be, I guess, a living institution, something that is responsive to our environment and the people that we work with. So it's a much better place for me to be around, I guess. With PROFORMA, this was, having taken a few years out of visual arts, I went back to it through a master's at Manchester School of Art, in their contemporary curating course, just to see what the contemporary world of visual arts was like at that time. Coincidentally, this aligned with Brexit, and so the year that I started my MA, Brexit also became a thing, and really that affected my business. It's a music venue, but also I wanted to then not only increase opportunities for artists within Manchester. It's actually like, let's start to think about broadening those opportunities in Europe and how we can have something that would counteract some of the issues that we could foresee in 2016. I mean, yeah, Project Fear became reality very quickly. And I think as an arts organisation, as somebody who can be responsive, we're not tied down in sort of red tape, so we can approach other organisations in Europe with a similar outlook. As an exhibition platform, PROFORMA has only recently had a space. Before then, we would inhabit temporary spaces across the Northwest and even around England, go to places like Venice and have pop-up exhibitions in those spaces as well, believing that the independent scene should have visibility within the wider art world conversations, as well as those conversations back here in England that were occurring. So I'm just going to share my screen now and just talk through some of the ideas for Design Lines, where that came from. So again, just ignore the really messy desktop. There we go. So Design Lines here, this is a resource on our website, and initially, I wanted to talk with some of the organisations that we had been working with. So at this time, Design Lines is now a year old, but the programme originally included Begehungen, but also an organisation in Venice called PASI Platform, and another organisation in Kosovo called Autostrada Biennale. And the four of us came up with a way to talk about some of the issues that affect us all through a seminar. But also we commissioned artists to look at Design Lines in a way that we kind of broke down the lines aspects of the Design Lines into livability, inclusivity, network, environment, and sustainability. And we commissioned, I think in total it's 8 artists to respond to each of those points. So on our website here, you can click on, let's click on chapter 4. This was environment by a neurodivergent artist we commissioned called Rebecca Ubuntu. And within this document here is designed by an artist called Jessica Loveday. We broke down conversations that basically Rebecca had been having with other members of PROFORMA at the time, an artist curator called Nikita Gill, and another curator called Julia McConaughey. And within these conversations, we translated them into this booklet. It's online, and you can read through this at your own time. but we wanted to look at environment not only from the perspective of the world that we live in and climate crisis. How do we address that? If we talk about travel and residency, how can we address the climate crisis within that, but also personal environments as well, and how they can be affected by being in the arts, very precarious conditions in the arts. So Rebecca, in their talk, they discussed how to have a better organizational relationship with artists, how to bring in access riders for artists, which is a way for artists to express what they would need when they work with an organization. So it would list, some things that they are better working with, very simply, preferring like WhatsApp to emails and all of those kind of things, to more complex issues, especially with artists who have, neurodivergency problems or ways of working with people that are different. So something like an access rider helps improve the environment for artists specifically. All the information and research that we did last year fed into this open access resource that we have on our website. And using those points within the lines as a way to build policy within PROFORMA, so how we can actually have our governance within each of these, the framework of each of these, looking at things like sustainability, not only organizational sustainability, but individual sustainability, so we don't suffer from burnout and things like that. This is all now part of our governance within PROFORMA, but the outward facing part of this program is this resource. And we just wanted to make sure that we could signpost people, particularly post-Brexit, with difficulty in traveling within the EU, but also with COVID, how we can kind of live with COVID. At the time, it's a way that we could have a number of residencies, either remotely, hybrid, or physically. So just breaking down each of these, the inclusivity part of this, again, it's signposting information. So we asked artists what they feel that would be great if we had inclusivity on here. So as well as funding opportunities, we also have childcare, which is a big issue for artists who, don't really have access to opportunities because of childcare issues, for example. For networks, we just tried to open out some more residency spaces in the UK, but also further afield. This is an ongoing concern for us, where our aim is to update it regularly. But for instance, if you want to use it, you could find out where you get your visa, which country you'd want to go to, what you would need for a visa to work there, for example. So this is the website part of the desire lines. And then what it also became was a framework for us to then work with organizations within Europe. So whilst it's a very flexible term, I think Begehungen are our closest partner. Generally, we have this framework of like, okay, how can we share resources as well as artists, as well as spaces that we have. So this year it's been really exciting for us. We were connected with SODAS2123 last year, and we tried to do some last year. It didn't quite fit within our timeframes, but this year has been really productive for us. And we have later on you'll hear from Omid Hattardi, who's currently in Vilnius and on his residency. But here in Manchester, for us, quite a significant change was that we are now partnered with an artist studio group called Rose Studios. So they are based in East Manchester, Longsight, where we're based as an organisation now, is also in East Manchester. And to highlight the precariousness of organisations and studio groups within Manchester, Rogue used to be based in the city centre, property developer moved in, and just basically kicked everybody out. It's the oldest artist studios within the city centre. I think there's just one left now, but the council worked with this group and found them an old abandoned school. Lots of similarities with SODAS. I think SODAS is also an old abandoned school. And within this new building, they have a separate ground called the Caretaker's Cottage, and an artist called Kate Davis, who passed away unfortunately, has given over some of her legacy to renovate this cottage. So it's the Kate Davis cottage. And we have Vitalis, who will be talking again later on, who's currently the first person ever to stay in this house. So he has a 3-bed house to himself at the moment, but the idea is that this house will become a permanent artist residency space, also somewhere that will be able for families to stay. PROFORMA has use of this residential space, but Row Studios want to increase that, so I think it might become some kind of art hostel or some way that people can go and have a retreat in East Manchester if you needed to. But you'll hear about Vitalis's experiences later. But going back to how we work organizationally, it's very flexible. I think, we all have very limited resources, but if we think about it in a sort of collective way, I think we can just generally have more artists involved in our programs, both in our cities, our respective cities, but then also connecting them outside of that. So I feel that, yeah, I think that that's probably about enough right now to talk about. But as I say, our sort of longest partner that we have is Begehungen Festival in Chemnitz. Chemnitz is Manchester's twin city, and that's where the kind of relationship comes from. So I will pass over to Lars now, if that's okay for you to speak.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chris, for the invitation. Yeah, how Chris said, we are partners since, I think, 3 years, 4 years, I'm not sure, 3 years, 4 years. And yeah, there's a nice relationship in exchanging artists from Manchester to Chemnitz. And also we have had one artist from Chemnitz in Manchester in a remote residency 2 years ago, I think. And yeah, so I don't know what ideas and things I have to tell you, because there are a lot of things in the moment we have to do. I tell you from the festival. That's the reason why the organization is founded, and now the festival is getting bigger. And I told you from the European Capital of Culture thing, and that's a reason for our organization to do more as the festival. And Desire Lines is one of the main programs for us in the next years. And the remote residency is also a program for us that we want to make bigger. And so residency programs we do since a lot of years for the festival, also with artists from all over the world, I want to say. And now to do this, Desire Lines thing is very interesting for us. And we have started with a residency program which named Desire Lines in October this year. It was a little bit surprise for us because you have to know, to get the funding for our festival from the city of Chemnitz, we have to write the papers for this more than 1 year before. It was in June 21. And in this time, we don't know in which region our festival will be located in 22. And later on, we decided to do the festival in a small village 15 kilometers from Chemnitz away. And so we can't use the money from the city of Chemnitz for this festival because it was not in Chemnitz. But we had the money. And from so far, we we decided to do a residency program with 4 artists in October, and it was, I think, 2 or 3 months before we start, and we think about what can be the label that we use for this new residency thing with this exhibition. For our festival, it was too small, and for other things, it doesn't fit. And so we sat together, and somewhere said, "Yeah, let's try it. It is Desire Lines what we do. It is a residency program with European artists. We have some curators for this, and yeah, and so we start this program in October. Parham you see here, and 3 other artists. One was Andrzej Boleslavsky from Prague. There was Victor from Venice, and Sofia from the Ukraine, from Kiev or from Odessa, well, and she is living since such a month in Berlin. You have to live there, you know. And so these 4 artists was in Chemnitz for 4 weeks, and after these 4 weeks we do a 3 days exhibition in a room that was a closed club. It was a closed club for 12 years, and we opened this room. That's just a kind of work we do with our festival every year to do use abandoned places for our festival, and so we do it for this residency program in a small way in this club. Yeah, and it was a very nice experience. I think it was a good time. I'm looking forward to hear Parham for this. For me, it was a very interesting experience. Not only for the art, it was a wonderful exhibition. It was very, very nice artwork. But what was for me the best thing was to see how came together these 4 artists and work together and learn from each other and have a good time. I think it was a really, really good team, and we have had a nice time, I think. So yeah. Do you have any questions? Sorry, I'm a little bit tired. It's Friday evening. You know, I have to. It's a little bit hard for me to concentrate. So if you something doesn't understand or you have more questions, please ask me.
Yeah, well, maybe we could speak to Indra now, and then come back to questions. Well, thanks for that, Lars. I appreciate you've been working incredibly busy since the summer, so thanks for that. And yeah, Indra, maybe if you could talk about SODAS, please.
Yeah, so SODAS2123 is a big cultural complex located in Vilnius, Lithuania. It is about 10-15 minutes walk from the old town. The complex is located at a former school building, so we have lots of activities and institutions and disciplines under one roof. The complex is operated by Lithuanian Interdisciplinary Artists Association, and we have, I think we have more than 50 studios at the building. Most of the studios are for the local residents, local artists. We have also institutions who work with architecture, design, movies, culture, and many different disciplines. We have a few galleries in the space, and we also have the residency program, which is for us very important part because it brings the exchanges into the house. So the residency program runs for about 1.5 years. It's a pretty new residency program in Vilnius. We usually have 2-3 artists staying at once. And our program is really mixed. So previously we had some sound residencies, creative sound residency series. we're planning to do more with the sound, architecture, and curatorial ones. So I think we're still trying out different formats, and it always depends on the funding we have. We're really happy when we can pay grants for the artists, but we also have individual programs. And yeah, I think it is unique because the artists coming to already existing artistic community, and the complex itself is sometimes very busy because we have also, yeah, but 2-3 galleries. So there are exhibition openings. We have event space, a bar, and a coffee place, and it's always something new is happening in the house. It would be interesting to hear Omid telling us more about his experiences, because I guess the experiences also varies of what other artists are in the residency and depending on the time of the year, because in the summer it's very busy outside. Now it's getting more indoors busy. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thanks for that, Indra. Well, maybe we can hear from any of the artists that are here that have been part of our program, really, and start to open up that discussion to, I guess, this very informal thing that we've called Design Lines, but I guess it's a really good way that binds our activities together. So is there an artist that can see Omid, Vitalis, and Parham? Anybody would like to nominate themselves first? Please go ahead. And it'd be a quick introduction to your practice and then your experience of the residency program, if that's okay.
I can go if anyone, if other people are not. I don't know. Should I go? Yeah. I think it was, I mean, generally, it was the idea of residency is really a great idea for breaking out of the loop. And even if not doing anything, even if you're just, I don't know, sitting in a park and observing people in a new place, or I don't know, just oversleeping or anything, really, the most unproductive things you can think of, it's still a positive experience because you are breaking out of your loop. And I had such a great time in Chemnitz because I really needed to get out of my routine after like 2 years of pandemic and not going anywhere and not and also like personally having issues with passports and etc. etc. So to me it was a great experience to just get out of my usual art scene and usual place of living and go somewhere else. And on top of this basic experience that you could probably get with any artist residency, it was great to be in Chemnitz because Chemnitz itself is a really, really kind of, I would say, extraordinary city with a really significant history and really amazing people to talk to and learn from. Just a brief history about Chemnitz. Chemnitz was, as far as I understood, is known as a place of labor and working class people, while like Dresden was the city of government, and then Leipzig was the city of culture and art. And Leipzig and Chemnitz was the city center of Chemnitz was completely bombed and wiped out during the World War II. So so when the Soviets took over, when DDR was formed, the city center was rebuilt in a kind of a completely socialist kind of project. It was built with a socialist Soviet kind of vision. So all the city, all the streets, all the roads are really wide to host parades and marches, and all these buildings were all the buildings around there are also also have very visible kind of socialist housing or kind of brutalist kind of Soviet architecture. So it was just walking down there in the city was an amazing experience. And on top of that, talking to lecturers and staff and people from the University of Technology, which were involved in this project in the residency. We were visiting the campus a lot and talking to people from the university a lot. It was amazing to see what people are working on in terms of virtual reality and augmented reality and all these kind of, you know, extended reality projects. And as a painter, as an oil painter, as someone who's trained in classic oil painting, it was really useful, interesting to me because you know, I think to define the current and now moment of contemporary painting, you need to negotiate with the past of oil painting, which is Bible and Christianity, because nothing is more painted than the body of Christ. And you need to negotiate with the past and with the future, which is internet, digital culture, all these extended realities, crypto technology, artificial intelligence, and etc., etc. So it was really useful for me to see all these technologies around me and all the artists who are working with the technologies, because the other artists on the program were working with 3D scanning and 3D printing and artificial intelligence and but in other contexts, not painting, in the context of sculpture and sound and animation and other things. So there was this diversity of practices, but all dealing with technology and trying to negotiate some sort of position and status with technology. So in general, the whole thing was super productive. It was constantly on the move. That month passed in a blink of an eye, really, and it was really productive. It was really amazing for me. And while I was there, I was constantly thinking about this idea that how all these organizations together are trying to kind of probably how people are trying to cancel the effects of the Brexit, and how just there's this saying in Persian that one idiot throws a rock into the well and 100 wise people cannot take that rock out of the well. Like it was so amazing to think about all these like people trying to steal, exchange culture and exchange artists and exchange art and ideas and everything, and try to cancel what one stupid prime minister has done or one stupid party has done in Britain. Yeah, I think that's more than 10-15 minutes. If that's, yeah. That's me. Yeah.
Thanks, Farhan. That's great. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do feel that whilst the initial spur was to counteract Brexit, I think, you know, we're going to be dealing with this for an issue for time to come. So now we can look at ways to counteract it, but also just encourage people to really thrive within their practice. And whilst it's a shadow, hopefully it's not the thing that is the shadow of who you are and what you're doing. But I think it does loom large on all of us. And so currently, what's very exciting is that we do have 2 artists in residence in opposite cities with Vilnius and SODAS. So we have Omid Asadi, who's a Manchester-based artist, who's over in Vilnius now. We have Vitalis, and he is based in Row Studios in Manchester, but will be also based at Alongside Art Space. So if either of you would like to talk about your experiences in this live, you know, you're halfway through pretty much, or at least nearly 2 weeks through the residency program. So if either of you would like to talk about this experience so far, that would be great, please.
Okay, hello everyone. So I'm Vitalis and I'm here about 11 days already in Manchester. And I'm not like a usual residency artist as some people are, that is just like a traveling from one residency to another one. So it's my first residency abroad. And last time I was in a residency about 5 years ago. So it's also very interesting for me how everything's changing during the residency, how it's plenty time of doing research. So my research and practice is based on walking. So I just like tried to see the new city from, do you see my screen? Sorry, I'm sharing my screen now. Do you see it? So yeah, so I'm just like
If you try again now, Vitalis, that should hopefully work.
Okay.
Yes, that's great.
Okay, so I'm tried just like to see the city from the fresh view. I have never been in Manchester before, and in this part of UK also. So in the northern part. So I just like walking every day here, making notes, making photos, videos, collecting sounds for my next project and project presentation. So what can I say? It's very, very prepared, very good situation for me for just like to be here and do my favorite things here. It's just completely, how to say, just everything so prepared and working well. So it's kind of also a pressure to be here for the first time, for be a first resident in a residency. And but on the other hand, just like every day, it's just like full of some new information, knowledge, adventures. So yeah, thank you very much for inviting me, and I hope the next half of my residency here, next 20 days, not 20, but about 2 weeks, yeah, will be also quite interesting and productive.
Yeah, this is great, Vitalis. So just to give people an idea of the scale you're walking every day, it's around about 13 miles or 25 kilometers per day or something.
Yeah, so usually I'm just like taking this like very serious and doing it a kind of a routine. So it's just like for about 8 hours per day of walking. So it's yeah, so sometimes it's about 30 kilometers, sometimes it's 20. Sometimes I'm just like finding some good places as a museum or libraries, and just having more time spending in those places reading. And also I met a lot of already, just like in the first week, I already met a lot of people here. So Chris doing very well. So he just like connected me with local walkers, local activists, local artists. He introduced me to some curators and artists that are based here, also in a rock art studio. So the whole situation is kind of excellent. So, and yeah, so I'm just like researching not only the part of the Manchester center, Manchester city, but also the mostly, as you saw on the map, south and east south part of the Manchester. So I'm basically, and also just like preparing for my project that will be presented 2 weeks later.
Yeah, so thanks Vitalis.
Yeah.
I think the presentation, we're going to try and do something on the 25th of this month, and so some of that will hopefully be on Instagram Live as well, so I'll share that with Rachel and if people will log on. But it's great that yeah, the dedication to walking as practice is incredible. So thanks for that. If you're okay, I can pass on to Omid now, and he can talk about
sure.
Thanks. Doing this. Thanks, Charles.
Hi everyone, my name is Omid Asadi, and at the moment I'm in Vilnius. When I came to the Vilnius, it's a very exciting experience because the city itself, it's an art form for me. So it's kind of, for me, it looks like I'm walking in some animation I watched in my childhood or some movies I watched before. So it's a kind of very historical and kind of old city. And I'm talking about the old part of the city, which is very interesting for me. And also in new city as well, because my practice is very based on contrast, and I like to see the contrast in everything I can see. And I like this city because 2 days before this residency, I came from Sweden, another residency I had, and also solo show, but it's completely different. This city, it's not occupied, still not occupied by the very big companies, and just I saw H&M and Zara. And because in UK, when you're going to each city in city center, you see certain shops, you know, it looks like everywhere you are being there. But this city is completely different. You still see the old boutiques and, you know, old shops. And yeah, I don't know how much they can survive after the big companies coming to the city. But yeah, it was interesting. SODAS itself, yeah, it's an interesting space. So it's yeah, lots of artists here. I haven't seen lots of them yet, and haven't got the connection to, you know, with them actually. And but I'm trying to see some of them very soon, hopefully. And yeah, that's my experience. And yeah, I'm walking, you know, like not like Vitalis, you know, like 10 kilometers every day. But this one is completely a little bit different for presentation. Yeah, my presentation may be a little bit different from my previous exhibitions. And yeah, still thinking how can the best way to present it. And yeah, because it is for me very complex time. And since last 2 months, I've been in different places with different project, which I have to change my mindset to another idea and context. So also another issue, it's happening, also the problem, it's happening in my country. It's near half of my brain working somewhere else and half of my brain is somewhere else. So it's a kind of, yeah, it's very complex now, and but I like challenges, so I'm going to use this, you know, issues together and bring it to the one or few pieces to see. I don't know. It's still thinking about how to present it, but yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting for me. I don't know for the audience. I have no idea it's gonna be okay or not. But yeah, it's the place is interesting. Yeah, inside and outside, it's really good. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thanks, Tommy. So with that kind of disruption that you talked about for yourself, and between moving from one city to another city, short period of time, having a brain working in different cities, but also thinking about issues in Iran. And, you know, I think, are you finding that you also have time within residency just to sit and think with those things, or is it still something that you feel disassociated with lots of different things because you've moved around quite a lot recently?
Yeah, I think it's not because I think, unfortunately, one of the things feed the artist is the problems or is the issues. So it's for me, these kind of things feed my creativity and I'm yeah, but because it's different, completely different. Yeah, it's the previous project was completely different, and this one is I could continue to my way to produce the works which I have done before, but I found it would be interesting to challenge myself to, you know, connect with the Vitalis to idea about the walking. And I have done one project before with Chris. It was about loiter and flaneur. So I still want to continue that way to see where can I go. So with my practice, and yeah, I like this idea actually.
Okay, great. Well, I mean, I hope everybody's got a broad sense of what we're trying to achieve through the Design Lines program. I guess now is the time to open it out to questions for people. So if anybody has any questions, please ask.
I'd like to start with a question, if that's okay. So it looks like the resource that you've created for Design Lines is really great in the sense that that kind of provides a go-to package for artists. And you said it was something that was developing. I was wondering if what your plans were in terms of developing that resource further and how you might go about sharing it, because I think that's something that a lot of artists kind of UK and beyond, like Europe-wide, would find really, really useful.
Yeah, well, I think, so I did share within the chat, there is like a designlines.eu website. So that was developed specifically for the projects created by Begehungen in Chemnitz, but there has been a brief discussion about increasing that. So it includes the resource, but a much more dedicated resource going forward. As with everything, it's funding dependent, and we just wait until there is that level of funding that we can actually dedicate that time to it. But for now, I guess our main focus is through things like this discussion and through the kind of sharing across platforms, social media, emails and all of those things, is just to make it more visible that way. You know, we are, again, all working with micro budgets, if any at all. So the idea is that it's just word of mouth initially, as well as a sort of necessarily, I guess, reminders of things online through predominantly Instagram. For us, it seems to work quite well. And I feel that with the discussions with Begehungen to create Design Lines in Chemnitz, then just brings a whole other level of visibility to what we're trying to achieve. So I think if we can collaboratively work across that, if it does become this designlines.eu as a permanent site to house all of this, then all of the organisations that we work together with could probably use that as a resource for ourselves, as well as we can align calendars, we can align things of when we're moving, so our practices become a bit more centralised as well within that, whilst offering a sort of decentralised platform for people to just find how to navigate really boring administrative stuff. But I think as I get involved in more organizations, I really quite like that boring administrative stuff because it enables us to do more things. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Maybe Lars, would you like to talk about, I guess, the ideas behind the sort of the initial website and hopefully discussions about renewing that in the future with us?
I don't know. The website Design Lines EU was yeah, was a marketing tool for us for the moment. We asked Chris if we can use the name for the Earl, and it was short in time. We have done it, and that was the way. It is a easy website, and I think the website should be if it this website designlanes.eu or another website, it should be more information about all of the partners and the idea and the possibilities you have as artists to be in it. So, and there is a lot of possibilities for the future, I think. Yes.
Definitely. I mean, it's such a quick turnaround to get it out there as well. Like, it's very impressive for that. So yeah, it's something that's a work in progress, I guess. But yeah,
yes. So it is a question as well if we yeah, so it's a small question, but do we have a same design for all design lines is used all over Europe, or can use every organization his own design and his own work and so on? I think it's a small question. It's not necessary, I think, but we have to talk about it sometimes. So
definitely, yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those things where we're so used to our independent practices within our own regions that any more of a workload becomes it can be quite difficult to do that. So something like Design Lines it's all about the simplicity of us being able to share something that we can have a common interest in. But things like the design, all of those things, I think we'll just work on that together, I guess, and see what fits us for our own organization. Because again, you know, the language aspects of what we try to do, I'm very grateful that everybody's speaking in English, but you know, these are not the languages of each representative country. So we need to make sure that the website also has that function within it. So if we're dealing with 12 countries in the world, a website with 12 different languages might be something that would be very difficult for us to do collectively. But if we did that individually with our own branding and stuff, then maybe that's the way we could find some common agreement of what that would be. But yeah, lots to discuss going forward, really, I guess.
That's great, thank you. And I guess just sort of stemming from that, what you were saying about, you know, making it more accessible for artists to kind of be able to access that information. Another question that I had was, this is to anyone in the room really, what advice you might give to someone who is looking to expand and move into residencies or opportunities that are outside of their own country. What would you recommend as the first point of something that they can do, which can you know, enable them to move outside of where they're currently based?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one because a lot of my initial ideas came from the fact that I couldn't find those residencies. So I guess it's more about making them open and accessible as possible. And just really, if you use a starting point of something like Design Lines, there isn't a way to find other residency programs. And some of them, you know, I'd have to say that within our programs currently, we work with artists development anyway. So generally they're not open calls, they're not approaches like to us for an artist to go, oh, can I work over here? Because a lot of us are trying to work with, I guess, mid-career artists, and there's some kind of development. But I guess for the future, we might be able to look at a more open process for that specific part of the program. But for us, I mean, again, it's just I would recommend looking at the British Council, their website, what they offer, looking at some of the, I think there's, not necessarily, not that we can apply to it now, but the Culture Moves, iPortunus, it used to be, is a website platform where you can apply for travel around Europe. But within that, like I say, you can't apply for it if you're British, unfortunately. But there are links to other organizations that are part of that network, and that might be a way to open it out. So again, it's just trying to find this like centralized information points so people can find it easier. I think Design Lines might offer that. But would you have any advice, Indra or Lars, for people to find residencies internationally?
Yeah, there are a few really great residency database pages, and they announced the recent open calls, and these pages are dressartist.org, I think, and franceartist.com or org. And there are a variety of open calls if you're not invited specifically to a residency, but I think it is really important to find a match and understand the expectations you're as an artist and the institution who is inviting, and to meet those expectations from the environment, how many artists are living at residency, and what are the expectations, what do you want to work with. And yeah, I think it depends if the residency is focusing on mid-career artists or young artists. So before wasting your time to fill in all the application forms, you really need to understand, is it a good match? So I always advise to check the former artist who is doing the evaluation and just do some research of the history of the institution.
Yes, from part of Begehungen, I can say we do 3 ways for to find the residency artists, and the first is the open call we do for the festival. So we had this year 700 applications for the festival. So we have a big data bank of artists from the last years. And another way that I like very much is to contact to curators like Chris, or for the Design Lines issue this year, we worked together with a curator from Prague with a very interesting festival called Ouroboros. And Michal suggests us Andrei Boleslavsky, and so if you know a good curator, you even get good artists. I think that's a good. It's a kind of a white card, and it is a good deal for us. And the third way is that we go to exhibitions and look for artists, and yeah, it's the third way, and it works also very good. And this way, we want to do more in the next years to looking for artists, especially in exhibitions and in so on. And yeah.
I have a question for the artist. How do you feel about the expectation to do a presentation or presentation of your residency project in the end of the residency? Because sometimes I feel that usually the institution has the expectation to do this final presentations because it's very interesting for the institution, and it could be included in the final reports for the funding. But in the opposite side, from artist perspective, sometimes I feel and I hear that it kind of puts a little bit of pressure for the artists, so that they need to concentrate on different things on the final presentation, especially if it's only 1 month long residency, which is super short. And I'm just curious, in your experience, does it change the flow of the residency if you have the presentation and if you don't have this?
I think, yeah, it's changed a little bit. The feeling and the flow of all days here, for example, because already I'm just like started to think about and starting buying the technology, some devices already. I bought one for my future presentation. So it's kind of also as a pressure for produce something. But of course, it's also, how to say, just like a personal pressure works here, because I want to make something here, to produce something here and present it. But maybe it would be less pressure if it would be just like in the beginning, just everyone agreed that some impression of the city, for example, of some new knowledge gain here, so that it's enough. So everything else would be just like some bonuses. So yeah, but for example, for another just like residence also has those things that people are just like producing artworks already finished and already just like presented in an exhibition. So sometimes it's, as I saw it also in SODAS with some residencies, residents they are just like don't even going somewhere, but just like using a residency as a workstation, as a work hub for produce their artwork and to make an exhibition. So it depends on the creators, I think, and artists, and how they just like communicate and agreed how it can be, and what's the goals are during this month. But of course, if it's less expectations, so it also can be just like a scale from the, I don't know, just like a present some thoughts and some sketches for something, and the last scales point would be just like to make an exhibition, just like personal exhibitions. So it depends where we are on the scale, and if it's freedom, so I think it's less pressure, and it depends on the situation and on the activity and on the situation of the artist in the new city. So the less pressure, of course, it's better for me, for example, but it doesn't say it's anyway works in other things working in a different way. So it's sometimes pressure is okay, but to have this freedom of on this scale of producing something in the end, it's also good feeling.
It's interesting. Oh, sorry, Omid. I'll let you go.
You can go.
Just responding to what you were saying there, Vitalis. It sounds like both you and Omid actually have got a real interest in place and how that specific place at that specific time is going to influence your work. On some residencies that I've been on in the past, you do have some people that will bring a piece of work to a place and they use it, like you say, as a workstation, which is a very interesting way of using a residency. I've always thought of them as being very much centered on where you are at the time. I wonder, Omid, maybe because you've been moving from place to place, do you find that your pattern of thought, do you kind of have a thread that runs through all of your places that you go to, or do you find that the work shifts quite a lot depending on where you are?
Yeah, I think my work is quite shift a lot, because it's because of nature of the residencies, because they are more than normal residencies. So I've been involved with like a 6-month residency in Manchester, which is working with disabled artists. So that was a very new experience for me to work with this artist. So it's a kind of, so it's not continue my previous work. So when this finished, another residency in Sweden, it was related to my previous artworks, which was completely related, and this one is not related. So when I'm saying not related, is not saying completely not related. It means it's not continuously related to the previous one, because I'm a multidisciplinary artist, so I can move the idea and move the the form, and it's okay for me. But also, yeah, I quite like this challenge for myself, so it's not a big issue. So I like it. And another thing is about the expectation of the presentation. Actually, so like Vitalis said, yeah, sometimes it's good, sometimes pressure is good, but yeah, for the short residencies, so you have to use half of the residency to think about the presentation, not the use of the residency. This is kind of thing we as an artist and as an entity, we have to think about that. So at least half of the residency should be use for the production, not for the residency. So, but it's again another question arises. So what's the purpose of residency? So as an artist, what's the point of coming here? Moving the place, it doesn't affect artists that much instantly. Maybe it affects your works or your creativity later on, but I'm not sure. Maybe for Vital it's different, so because it's based on walking, yeah, it's different space places. But for someone who, for example, I'm very interested because Param is not here anymore, but how much this residency moving the place to another place change his practice, because he's a painter. So is that change his practice, or what affect his practice? I'm sure, I guess, is not that much, it shouldn't change it that much, because first of all it's very short, and second is artist needs time to some things affect his work. It's not we are not speed producer of something. Yeah, I'm sure I hopefully answered the question.
I guess there is no right answer of this question, but this thing I'm recently thinking a lot about putting this pressure, and I think that some of the pressure is put to the organization by the funds. For example, usually, at least in Lithuania, when you applying for Council for Culture or other funds, you need to promise to do a spread of the events, representations, and sometimes it feels that more you plan and the bigger number you said that you will do, then you will get more points for that. But then, of course, the quality and how to have both. And I'm also working with another residency, Verpės, which is located in the countryside, and with Verpės initiator and the main curator, Laura, we talking a lot of how to play with the funds and to not promise that we will do lots of events, and how to give an artist opportunity just to have the experience at residency, because sometimes the works can come after the residency for a few years maybe, and sometimes you just need time to be in the space and to not think about any production. So I'm just interested how the others, for example, Chris, how do you feel about this question and this navigation between putting too much pressure, but also have some kind of an outcome?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so. I mean, hopefully, some of the discussions we've had with Talis is we've tried to make it as much as maybe a pause rather than a full stop. So the 25th is something that is a snapshot of where he's at that moment, and if that becomes an exhibition, that becomes an exhibition. If it becomes a walk or something. Again, it's just definitely within. We're flexible within that. But one of our funders, they want to see people in the venue. They want to see people meet and stuff. So it's balancing the value of. I mean, they talk about funders talk about quality, but the quality surely is with the artists and their experience, and therefore the institution, the organisation that is housing the artists, by its very nature, there's the quality of the work that we're doing, is that this artist has had a fulfilling time, hopefully, but then also it's influencing their work, in the years to come. And our presentation could even be just a gathering, just to invite people to meet the artist, and hopefully that will then satisfy those other exterior pressures. But it's also, they really want quantifiable things, and really it's, for me, it has to be how I negotiate with those funders to say, well, you know, if you want X amount of paintings on the wall, and this artist doesn't even, you know, his paintbrush is his feet, in the city is a canvas, you know, how do you express that to the funders? So it's really about that kind of like bringing it down to the experience of the people that Vitalis meets as well, and trying to capture that, I think, and also saying, well, as an art form, this is valid because of these reasons and because of that experience that people have. And so it's a learning curve, it's hard, but I think that, hopefully, as we do more of these residencies going forward, that the kind of like the date, it doesn't become a deadline that's overbearing for people, because sometimes that can, that is an effect on people. But let's treat it in the same way as I don't think it's the end of the relationship. It's not like, here's 4 weeks, we've had this great time, bye, and we'll never speak to each other again. You know, you wouldn't do that with your artwork. So I think as an organisation, you have a responsibility to just keep in touch, you know, just keep asking those questions further down the line, you know, every couple of months, just touching base with somebody is really important. So for me, it's like, trying to balance all of those things. And sometimes that can be a very, a presentation that people get, and sometimes it's not. But either way, I think it's my job as a director to make sure that both parties are satisfied in the middle of that, really. And Lars, I know that with, particularly with Begehungen Festival and moving outside to Talheim, can you talk about those pressures of working with funders to make sure that you're out of the city, but then some funders wouldn't give you the money because you're not in the city? Could you talk about that a little bit more, please?
Yes, in this case, for the festival, it was a decision to go out of Chemnitz because we are part of this program from the European Capital of Culture, and the region around Chemnitz is also part of this thing. And it was a decision between us and the city government, or the European Capital of Culture company, to go for 3 years for the next, as for this year and the next 2 years, to go in the region. And it is a little bit a political thing to show the people outside of Chemnitz in smaller villages that they are also part of this thing. So, and we say, okay, it wasn't. We do it next year since 20 years, and we said, okay, it could be a nice experience. And we had a wonderful venue this year, an old abandoned public bath, fun park, water fun park, and this moment to go in the region was good for us for funding, because we get money from funders who gave especially money in villages or in the region, not in big cities. You know, this was one aspect. Another aspect was, thank you, Chris, was the remote residency. It was Chris' idea some years ago, and we used this idea since 2 years. And in this year, we use a digital program from the Kulturstiftung des Bundes. It's a great organization from the government of Germany this Kulturstiftung, and we show her this idea of remote residency for a digital program. They look for digital programs, and this was our idea, and they gave us more than 50,000 euros for this program for 4 artists for 4 residencies. One from Manchester, one from Berlin, one from Ukraine, and this one from Slovenia. And so this was also this was for this year, but next year we don't get this money for this program. We have to show for another program. But in Germany, in the moment, there are some programs for digital things in art, and so we now we have tried to do this thing in another program for next year. Yes, this was so we have a lot of we look around. For example, today or on Monday, next Monday we do a application for a European festival program, because we are a festival, and we want to do application for 1 artist. We are the leading festival, and we need 2 partner festivals, and that was wonderful because it was a very short time for this application, and we need in 1 week we need a good artist and 2 partner festivals, and it was wonderful to have this Design Alliance connection. But because of this, we know 2 festivals. We asked Chris, we asked Michael from Prague, and we've asked a good artist that we know from the Begehungen, and so we can do this application for 1 residency for the next year. We try to get it over this European festival program. So it's we look around. So it's the job to look around for programs and write applications and more applications. And last thing is, because of this European Capital of Culture, we are supported by the company who runs this thing, and we look a lot of European programs. So there is a supporting program in this European Capital of Culture thing, and we are in this.
That's great. Thank you so much. It's I think a project like this really shows the benefit of working with other organizations and sharing your knowledge and your understanding of how, you know, how different funding bodies work, and how, you know, different types of art and different types of event can come together and create something that's really fantastic and benefits so many people, which is really wonderful. So thank you for that insight. I think it's opened our eyes, especially as well, to how other countries outside of Britain are functioning, you know, with their own arts programs and with their own funding problems, and, you know, all those things that come with being an arts organization, and, you know, trying to get the best out of what we can get. So does anybody else have any final comments or any final questions for any of the speakers?
I'd just like to say thank you for the invite. It's been really nice to catch up with you in Manchester when you came, and then also to do this talk. So thank you for the hosting.
No, that's great, and thank you all for coming and for sharing your knowledge and your skills and your experiences of working on this program. It sounds like it's only been a year in the making, and it sounds like it's got something really special going forwards. And yes, we've had lots of comments in the chat thanking you all for your time and saying how interesting and generous it's been, really useful and encouraging as well. So I think that's given people in the audience a lot to think about. So thank you. Thank you so much for joining Huddle. We've got 2 more huddles to go before we wrap up our program. So there's going to be one on the 8th of December, and there's going to be another one on the 11th of December. That will be going out on camp's social media and camp's channels very soon. I will share those details with you. Again, it's another free Zoom event, so you're more than welcome to drop into those and come in and out as you wish. But yes, I will close this one for now. Thank you all so much for your time this evening. The recording will be available on camp's website very soon. We will share that when that becomes available. But again, thank you so much for your time. It's been so great to meet you all, and hopefully we'll cross paths again soon.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
you. Bye-bye.